The quiet girl in class was my only friend. Then I found out what happened at her desk. The only real friend I ever made showed me how to fly. Before her, my life at Northgate High was a study in beige anonymity. I'd transferred mid-year after my parents split, a quiet ghost haunting the back of classrooms, hoping to be as invisible as I felt. The noise of the other students was a physical thing, a wall of sound and laughter I couldn't penetrate. I ate alone. I walked the halls alone. Every day it was the same flat gray line. I sat in the last row, in a corner that smelled like dust and forgotten things. The desk next to mine was empty, scarred with the faded initials of kids who had long since moved on. Or so I thought. She was just there one day. I don't remember her arriving. One moment there was an empty chair, the next there was Saskia. She had dark, serious eyes and ink stains on her fingers. The rest of the class swirled around us, a chaotic mess of energy, but our corner was an island of stillness. No one ever spoke to her. No one even seemed to look in her direction. I was too knotted up with my own shyness to speak first, but then she turned to me, a sketchbook open on her lap. She wasn't smiling, not really. It was more like an acknowledgement. "They're loud," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "It's hard to think when it's so loud." It was like she'd reached into my chest and squeezed the frantic, lonely thing my heart had become. I just nodded, unable to form words. That was enough. Saskia became my gravity. During breaks, she'd lead me not to the roaring cafeteria, but up to the unused third floor, to a dusty window that overlooked the whole town. We'd sit on the floor and she'd show me her drawings. Her sketchbook was filled with impossible perspectives. Rooftops of abandoned factories, lonely radio towers piercing the clouds, the tops of the oldest trees in the woods, places seen from above, as if sketched by a bird. They were beautiful and deeply, unnervingly sad. "This is where it's quiet," she'd say, tracing the edge of a crumbling brick smokestack with her finger. "You can get away from the noise up here." I was so starved for connection that I ignored the strange things. The way she always wore the same gray, threadbare cardigan, even when the autumn heat baked the classrooms. The fact I never saw her eat or drink anything. The time I brushed her hand reaching for her sketchbook, and her skin felt like a stone pulled from a frozen river. All that mattered was that when I was with her, the crushing weight of being alone vanished. I wasn't invisible anymore, because she could see me. Then came the night it ended. I woke up suddenly, the air in my room bitingly cold, the kind that sinks right into your bones. A scratching sound cut through the silence, the sound of charcoal on rough paper. Saskia was sitting at my desk, her back to me, sketching furiously by the pale light of the moon. Her presence wasn't shocking. In the dreamlike logic of that moment, it felt completely natural, as if she had always been there. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice thick with sleep. She didn't turn around. "I finished it," she whispered. The scratching stopped. "Our best place, the one I was saving." She stood and turned, holding up the sketchbook. The drawing was of my bedroom window, but from the outside. Two small figures stood on the narrow ledge, hand in hand, looking out over the sleeping town. The world below was a smudge of darkness, but the figures were sharp, clear, and ready. "I found a way to stay in the quiet place forever, Ronan," she said, her eyes deep and endless. "No more noise, no more being ignored. We can just fly away from it all." All the fear I should have felt was gone, replaced by a profound, aching trust. This was the answer, the escape. She held out a hand that was as pale as bone in the moonlight. I didn't hesitate. I took it, I took it, I took it. I took it. The world outside fell away into a silent, bottomless dark. The wind whispered through the opening, a soft invitation. As my first foot lifted off the floor to step onto the sill, a deafening crack shattered the night. Cack. My world dissolved into a sensation of falling, of wind screaming past my ears. Below me, the hard, dark earth rushed up to meet me. My last fleeting image was of the empty window frame above, and the faint, satisfied smile on her face as she faded back into the darkness. A few days after my funeral, the pieces started to come together for the people I left behind. A girl from my history class told the school counselor, her voice trembling, that she always saw me talking to the empty desk in the corner. She said I would sometimes stop in the middle of the hall and gesture to the air beside me, as if pointing something out to an invisible companion. One time, she said, I saw him on the athletic field after school. He was just standing there alone, looking up at the roof of the old art building. He was smiling and talking. It looked like he was holding someone's hand. The school records filled in the rest. They dug up the history of that scarred, empty desk. A year earlier, it had belonged to a girl named Saskia Novak, a gifted but withdrawn artist who was relentlessly bullied for her quiet nature. She had taken her own life by jumping from the roof of the art building. Her sketchbook, found on the ledge, was filled with drawings of desolate high places and falling figures. My death sanctified the corner. Now there were 2 empty desks there. A cursed little patch of real estate that everyone's eyes slid past. No one wanted to be the kid who sat next to the ghost, or the kid who sat next to the ghost's last victim, until another mid-year transfer arrived. The classroom door opened, and a quiet boy with a sketchbook tucked under his arm walked in. The teacher, oblivious, scanned the room for a seat. Everyone held their breath. He pointed. "Right there," the teacher said, gesturing to the back. "You can take that spot in the corner." The new boy nodded and made his way down the aisle, his steps slow and deliberate. He stopped right in front of my old desk, and as he sat down, he glanced at the empty seat beside him and gave the smallest, most curious of smiles.